Welcome to Revival Records Podcasts. I'm Peyton, one of the co-founders of Revival, as well as a singer, songwriter, and performer who has spent the last 20 years riding the roller coaster, otherwise known as the music business. And in this podcast, I speak to talented artists, producers, DJs, music moguls, songwriters, musicians, basically anyone brave enough or just crazy enough to make the business of music their mission in life. My guest today is not only someone I've admired for many years as an artist, but she's also a friend and collaborator who I've personally worked with, both in the studio and on stage, ever since the beginning of my own career. I've often said that Mary Pearce is what you call an artist's artist. Her career has been long, solid, consistent, and vast. And you'd be hard-pressed to meet a working musician, at least in the UK, who hasn't at some point or another worked on a project, been on a tour, or crossed creative paths with this hard-working titan of the music industry, known to many of us simply as Fierce Pearce, and to many others as the queen of studio and backing vocals, given that she has lent her voice to so many incredible projects and recorded BVs for and toured the world with the likes of some of the most iconic artists there are, legends of talent, such as Lionel Richie, Grace Jones, Donna Summer, Roy Ayers, Culture Club, Chaka Khan, Primal Scream, Beverly Knight, and so many more. However, like most artists who've managed to stay in the game as long as Mary Pearce has, her career has taken plenty of twists and turns, and Mary's coveted vocals have featured on chart-topping singles across a myriad of genres, although, unfortunately and disgracefully, her name has not always been credited. When Calvin Harris released his hugely popular hit single, Ready for the Weekend, in 2009, there was no mention whatsoever of the vocalist featured on that record. In fact, when you search for that record on Spotify and you click on the credits link, it will tell you that the song is performed by Calvin Harris, as well as produced by. This is by no means a particularly unusual or one-off scenario, especially in dance music, where time and again vocalists have been used and exploited by DJs and producers who preferred to take all the credit for their releases rather than share some of that limelight and celebrate the other artists whose talent also contributed to its success. I've never heard Calvin Harris sing, but I think it's safe to assume he doesn't sound anything like the mighty and marvelous Mary Pearce. Now, in this podcast, I'll be chatting with Mary about her extraordinary career and hearing stories of the ups and the downs that have come to define the much-respected artist and woman that she is today. And of course, we'll be discussing her involvement with Revival as the very much credited vocalist on our latest release, a dance floor reimagining of Al Green's 1976 classic, Take Me to the River, which also features a saxophone performance by the enormously talented Lovely Laura and the soul-stirring voices of our friends from the Geo Gospel Choir.
I want to know, won't you tell me I'm in love to stay? Hey, 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 yeah. Take me to the river. Take me to the river. And wash me down. Wash me down. Won't you cleanse my soul? Cleanse my soul. My feet on the ground. My feet on the ground.
Miss Mary Pearce. Here we are again.
Yes,
baby.
Mr.
Here
Peyton.
we are again. Here we are again. You and me. And this isn't our first time at the rodeo. And it ain't our...
I've got my Spurs, honey.
Honey, you got your Spurs. You got your plaques on the wall. You've earned you've earned a place in this industry, which I think it's been interesting watching you. And we've known each other a long time. I'll just start by saying I'm not saying 20 years.
In dog years, we've probably known each other about 4 years.
I like that. I like that. Who you calling a dog? Chinese astrology, I am a dog. I'll take it. But yeah, we go back. And the way I know that is because you're singing on, I'd say, about 80% of my records over the years.
Yeah.
Anytime I could afford
You always call me.
If I could afford another vocalist, because, I've made a lot of gospel choirs myself.
Yeah, exactly.
You know how it is.
Yeah.
We're moving on up. Well, moving on up, moving on up. You just record one stem after another.
Change your voice.
Change the voice a little bit, and then you do the X part. You do the next part. Hey, I got a gospel choir.
Moving on. Yeah, whatever.
This last couple of days at Abbey Road, recording the full gospel choir, I thought, it's only taken me 20 years. And finally, I got myself a real choir.
Yeah, it was amazing.
It was amazing. But you've been my choir for a long time. So
yeah, me and a handful of other people. It's been...
handful of others, Natasha Bell. We go way back. In my first album, and so many of my house records you've been part of, but you've also been part of many, many other projects, I know. Mm-hmm. You are what we would call a bit of a institution. You should be in an institution, but I mean...
Yeah, I think, like I said to you the other day, better to be part of an institution than in an
institution.
Yeah.
You have gravitas, and I like this word, and I think the gravitas is something that's earned. You commanded, the attention and the presence. I mean, everybody, as soon as you walked in, your presence just... It's and I watched you. It was interesting watching you at the session, because I could also see that I'd been trying and leading up to it. I knew that you weren't there. You're in your head. You weren't right there. There was a moment where you went boom, and you were in the room, and then it was like, there's Mary.
Okay.
Yeah, you arrived.
Yeah, I think you got to read the room, because then there are there was 20-piece choir,
20-voice choir.
Yeah, and then. There's all the crew and the cameramen and then a lot of people sort of hanging, watching producers, and everybody was there. And you kind of got to come in the room and be one voice on your own amongst all of these people. And, singing is like getting naked for the first time in front of your new boyfriend.
Yeah.
And, you're going to think, is he going to, is that boyfriend or those people, are they going to see all the lumps and bumps and where they are?
Are they going to look like what they imagine me to look like without clothes on? Are they going to be like,
oh, girl, is that you without that clothes on? And so, so I'm coming in the room and I'm thinking to myself, well, underneath here, I'm just Mary Pearce.
Yeah.
But then underneath here, I'm Mary Pearce.
Well, I think with the years as well, you kind of get, it's in a way, you almost grow into your authenticity, and it's true that diva in all of us, that personality, the one that people expect us to be, the big voice that comes onto us, the Mary Pearce, trying to kind of always, you don't wake up every day and feel like, oh yeah, today I'm going to walk out and the whole world's going to be like. And then some days you have that feeling, and you've been in the business long enough to kind of know that, like, I don't always want to have to play that part of me. It's a part of you.
I do see that, but and also like a boxer, I hear the bell, ding ding, and I'm out.
Yeah.
What do you need?
And that's what happened.
And that's
what
you
happened. Were already in the ring, and I watched you. And then the bell went off in your head, and then it was like, there she is. There's Mary.
Yeah.
All right, now a lot of our listeners might not know. Like, I have the advantage of knowing you for all these years and working with you. But where did Mary Pearce start?
I started off as another singer. I started off with another name, and then quickly realized that wasn't going to work because. So
is this your real name?
Yes, this is my given name.
Yeah, I did that too, and it doesn't feel.
It felt weird.
It felt weird.
And I spoke to my dad about it, and he said, "Well, I didn't have any sons. I need someone to carry the name on." And even though now I'm married, I still use my.
Yeah.
This is my name.
Yeah.
Officially I'm Mrs. Somebody else.
Something.
Yeah. And so
Miss Otis Regrets is now Mrs. Otis Regrets.
Exactly. But so when I started off, I thought I was somebody else, but I was still me. And people would say, "Oh, what's your name?" "Oh, my name's Mary Marie." No. So I stuck with Mary Pearce.
That's a great name.
Really quickly. And, my nickname is my whole name. people call me Mary Pearce. Nobody ever comes up to me. You always call me Mary Pearce. You never just call me Mary.
That's interesting. You're probably, yeah, you're right. But I don't do it consciously.
No. And just
Mary
like
Pearce.
we call you Peyton.
Yeah,
you know.
Mary. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Everybody calls me
funny.
Mary Pearce. And anyway, but that's where I started out. And I started out kind of thinking I was going to be the next sort of R&B sort of. I came up at a similar time to Mary J. Blige, and we were in some of those R&B charts, we were head to head. I've got sort of things where it said Mary Pearce and Mary J. Blige, Mary Pearce, Mary J. Blige. I love that.
Of course.
And there aren't many Marys out there in the world, but doing this kind of thing. Anyway, and then I just kind of went on, and I've tried my hand at a few things, and then I've had records out with outfits like Up Your Ronson back in the day, and they were big dance hits and so on and so forth, and doing the charts things and doing the Top of the Pops TV shows and stuff like that.
Did dance find you? This often happens with R&B artists who they didn't think, oh, I want to do dance music. It's more like the dance world kind of brings you in and goes, we need your vocals for this, and you kind of fall into it. How did that happen? I fell into it.
I met a very beautiful singer called Robert Owens, and he kind of led me down the garden path for house music and stuff like that. And, there are other singers in like the British house music scene who I met, became friends with, and, like Brian Chambers, Elizabeth Troy, these singers, which is part of this revival thing. And those are people that I have loved and adored for many, many years, and then had the pleasure of working alongside them in other factions. And then, what seems like just yesterday, but is actually about 10 years ago, I did a track with Calvin Harris.
Did you? I don't know that.
Ready for the Weekend.
That was you?
Ooh, put on my shoe. That's me. Peyton, come on now.
That's sad. Well, I have been busy.
And I'm ready for the weekend.
Of course.
That was me. So that was me. And I did that. And, the whole thing about revival, now sort of looking after all of the musicians on the record and making sure that the artists get recognized. That didn't actually happen for me in that regard, with regards to that song, which, was like at the top of its game when it came out. It was like number 2, number 1. Was your name
even on the record? Oh.
Anyway, so I kind of got mentioned as an afterthought. I try to...
I hope Calvin's listening because, Calvin, not cool. It's not cool. It's not.
But you know what? I've made peace with it.
You have to.
Sadly, and I've made peace with it. I'm.
You have to.
I'm on the other side of it.
You can't live in it. You can't. You gotta move on. But it doesn't mean it's right. And we gotta. People are like, you need to bring that up. We need to talk about it. And I've been talking about that with a lot of the artists.
And it's so sad, I mean, I did a telly with him and sang it live for Jules Holland, I think it was. Wow. And I did it live with him on the telly. And, and people were like, oh my God, Mary, I didn't know that was you. And some people knew, some people didn't know, but it was like a session. Somebody called me, can you do this session? Like, yeah, sure. And, I had no real clue. He wasn't really anybody then when I did that session. But, and then quickly that tune came out. It was a really big hit off of that
record.
Yeah.
I work in dance music and I know you and I didn't know that was you.
Yeah.
I mean, that is...
Yeah. But, that was like 10 years ago now. Yeah. That's gone so quickly. But, it's paid a few bills, but, only as far as, mechanical rights are concerned, radio play. If it didn't get played on the radio, then that was it.
What's annoying though is that in a way, even if they had wanted to just pay you a fee, buy you out right from the beginning, okay, all right, whatever, and you agreed to it, because you didn't know better or you didn't realize it was going to blow up. We never know.
No, we don't.
But to not have the name, that doesn't cost them anything. But what it does do, at least, at no expense to them, is provide more opportunities for you.
But then, it's that thing versus the letter O versus the letter A. So being another artist or otherwise, sort of unknown.
Taking credit away from...
Yeah, so there's, it can be the difference between $2,000 or 35
or a lot more gigs.
Or 90 grand, you could make out of the song. So if I was, a featured artist, like all of the other artists that he's had on his tracks.
Wow. That story has come up a lot in these podcasts. It's one of the things, as you know, we really want to address. But I want to talk a little bit about your story, your trajectory. You started out R&B. You house pulled you in. You've done a lot of house records. You've done a lot with me. You've done a lot of stuff. Period. I know you toured with Primal Scream. You toured with it. I mean, a lot of big artists.
Yeah. Primal Scream, Donna Summer.
Did you tour with Donna Summer?
Yeah, she was awesome. My God,
was she lovely?
She was so lovely. What a lovely lady.
Isn't it nice when the artists that you love turn out to be...
Oh, my God. And she was just so gracious on stage.
I love that.
And she loves singers. And I got to do the duet with her, that... It's raining, it's pouring. Yeah.
My whole life is boring me to tears.
Yeah, I got to do that duet with her, But, that was like... That blew my mind. I'm sort of standing there and singing
I'm just thinking about that. I'm imagining, like, how surreal.
Yeah, very surreal.
So you were the Barbra Streisand.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was very cool.
That's cool.
And, but she was so gracious and so lovely on stage. God rest her. We got on. Amongst the other singers that were there at the time. She came and she introduced herself. I don't think she really had that much time for the musicians, but she did have time for the other singers. And I think for her, we never really got... I spoke to her in a sort of artist to backing vocalist kind of way, but I think that she felt like her backing vocalist could make or break her gig kind of thing. So let's stay on side with the additional singers and make sure that they know their stuff.
Well, know their stuff and are invested in it for however long they're part of it.
Yeah, because we're going to support her on stage.
And want to be there. It makes the difference between, it's again, energy, all about, if you got backing singers that actually, we love this woman, not just because she's a legend, because she's kind to us.
But her voice.
And her,
my God.
Wow.
No matter how much you think about these singers, you hear them through your tiny radio on your system or through your headphones or whatever. You hear them. No matter how much you think you know that voice, when you hear it live. And it's coming down your ears, in your cans or in your in-ears, you're like, hold on a minute.
Wow.
That is a fucking voice. And she killed it every single time.
Wow.
Other singers that I've worked with that did the same thing was Shaka Khan. Miss Shaka Khan.
Wow,
all hail.
So you worked with Shaka Khan.
Yeah,
as well.
yeah.
I'm loving this.
On
Can
more
you name
than
drop a bit more.
I had the pleasure. I kid you not. I had the pleasure of working alongside for Gladys Knight.
Wow.
That female's voice. And I'm not sure that you can train up that timbre that she has, that weight that she has. That's handed straight down. Yeah. A bit like our Phoebe Edwards, her voice handed straight down. So, we, as a backing vocalist, you look at these singers, they come along and you're like, okay, let's hear what you've got.
Yeah.
but they absolutely please you every single time.
Oh, is she as lovely in person as she seems to be, Gladys?
Who, Gladys? Man.
Yeah,
and
she seems to be just...
And she's pocket-sized. She's tiny.
Yeah.
She's tiny. She's like the American version of Kylie Minogue.
Yeah.
She's teeny tiny. And she, and I mean that in a size version, not vocally.
No, I think given what you just said, that's obvious. But, I mean, and in a way, it almost challenges that people's notion that these larger, women are going to have larger voices. And I always have to sort of explain to people, it doesn't actually have anything to do. People think, they see these, large backing singers. It's like, they're going to have big voices.
Some of them don't.
It has nothing to do with it.
Can be wafer thin, love. Wafer thin.
We know a lot of wafer thin people with very big voices.
Hello, Belle.
What was it? Yeah. What was it he said to Belle? Hey, do you eat furniture for breakfast? A friend of ours who is very small but has a very, very large voice.
She's an amazing singer. Again, teeny tiny, pocket-sized. I could definitely put her on my knee. Yeah. Yeah. But she has the voice the size of a really tall building.
Yeah.
Belle. And
what kept you going, Mary? What has... I mean, you must, like all of us, at some point down this road, kind of imagined maybe more than maybe I'm saying. Sometimes maybe you thought you were getting more than you'd imagined. I mean, it's peaks and valleys. It's feast or famine. It's a hard old road, right?
Yeah.
And through the hard times, through those, when you kind of feel like you have been, I mean, that would have been I would imagine, a hard process, a big track that you're on is out there getting all this airtime and all this attention, and yet you're not even, that hurts.
Yeah.
Have you had some moments where you wanted to give up?
I mean, I do suffer with moments of doubt in myself.
Yeah.
My friend Lex often tells me to get out of my own way.
Your inner saboteur, as RuPaul calls it.
Yeah. I do bring her out every so often. And she comes to the edge of the precipice with me, and then sometimes I tell her to do one. Yeah. And I get on with it. I think I carry on because I love what I do.
Yeah.
I love what I do, and I get I get fever. And I go on stage, or I go in the studio, and when you look through the window in the studio and you see the producers going, yeah. You just think, all right then,
Is it the process that you love more? Is it the performance? Is it the same? Is there what is your favorite part of it?
I don't care if there's 2 people in the room. I'm going to give you the exact same performance as if there's 2,000 people in the room.
2 million.
Yeah. I'm going to give you the same performance. I've definitely done festival. I've done Glastonbury. I've done a festival in Spain, and there were like, I don't know, 80,000 people. In this
right now, after everything we've been through, sounds hideous to me. Can you imagine being a crowd of 80,000
sweating people? But they were outside, thank God. But it was just, I was just like, okay, I was on stage, Primal Scream, and I'm the only vocalist.
Wow.
Alongside Bobby Gillespie, and I'm singing, come together as one, and these are massive, like, anthemic tunes. And if you're a Primal Scream fan, Screamadelica is the big album, and everybody wants to hear that done live.
Yeah.
So I'm singing for them. I'd done I'd done their tour before, sort of 4 years earlier. And then I did it again when it was the 20th anniversary of Screamadelica. And they invited me to come and sing with them. And what I forgot to tell you the other day, when we were in Abbey Road, that my picture used to be on the wall in the hall at Abbey Road.
What happened? Do we need to...
Well, obviously
do we need to get a petition going to make sure it gets returned?
I was asking the guys at the front, where do you put But they have an archive of all of the photos.
Wow.
I'm glad that I'm in there, but I'd like to have it up in the hall.
Hello. At least we could have at least requested it for this week.
I'm telling you, I would love to have, if anybody from,
is listening,
from the record company,
Abbey Road Studios,
that, there's a picture of me doing a photograph of me and Elizabeth doing backing vocals for Primal Scream. And we were doing, they used to do a TV show there called The White Room and at Abbey Road.
Wow.
Was it? Although it was called Live from Abbey Road, I think it was called. And we were doing backing vocals and our picture was up. I was like, one day just walking in just to do a session. I was working with a Canadian band called Train.
That's cool.
And I was walking down there and I was like,
oh my God.
And I took a picture of myself with a picture of myself.
Of course.
That's how much of a fan I am of music.
Well, and I guess also seeing yourself in the tapestry of it all in that way. And I think often we don't, I'm sure you had this too, where, people who know your music and have seen you and love you, to them you're a star.
Yeah, that happened to me just a few weeks ago. And I was literally in a little corner shop, picking up something bland for home. And this woman walked up to me, she went, I know you. I was like, I'm sorry. So I was expecting her to be a mum.
Those videos been released?
I thought she was a mum from the school. I was like, oh, well, yeah. And she was like, no, I used to come and see you.
It's nice
sing.
though, isn't it?
And I was like,
it's nice.
What? Oh.
I know it's nice because it doesn't happen to us all the time as well. So it's not intrusive the way I guess if you really have that sort of mainstream fame it would be. You can't have people every single time you go somewhere coming up and you have to always be gracious and be kind. But because it happens once in a while, you're like,
once in a while, I'm like,
what? Little on me? Oh, can you get my autograph? Sure, we can spend the whole afternoon together if you want. Yeah, anything.
But you kind of got to just. I was literally taken aback, and I just said, okay.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm taking it on board, but it's a little bit strange.
I know.
Because I'm standing here in my civvies. My daughter is here. She doesn't know. What?
Daughter.
My mom.
I mean, how cool is that? And now you have a daughter. I mean, we won't go into that too much, but I got to say congratulations because...
Thanks.
And I've met her today for the first time. What a gorgeous, lovely young lady.
Yeah, she's turning out to be a real sweetheart.
And hats off to you for taking on the role of mom when you've been an artist all these. I mean, that's a big.
It's a big transition.
That's a big transition.
But it's trying to find that work mom life balance.
That balance.
Yeah.
I think I couldn't have survived if I'd had kids. I wasn't making enough money even.
I knew that I was going to get. I knew that I wasn't going to get to the end of my life without thinking, I wish I'd had kids. I definitely knew I wanted to have children by hook or by crook.
And you did it.
And I did it. And I just sort of said, I'm going to do that. I'll be back in a minute. Yeah. And I went off and I did it. And now it's 10 years later.
Wow.
And that was the longest minute of my life. It's not that I've been away for 10 years, but, I've definitely... I've got what I call my village. And those are the people that support me while I try to do what I do. And the thing is, I did ask for permission from my village, my friends, before I committed to what I've done.
Wow,
because
you knew you were going to need them. You knew you were going to need them. Yeah.
And it as the I think the saying comes from Nigeria, where it's an old proverb that says it takes a village to raise a child.
Of course, yeah.
And so.
I noticed that you haven't asked me to babysit. Is there any reason why? Is it something? Do you not trust me, Mary?
What, to look after my child?
I could have babysat. You never called.
I couldn't.
You're like,
from
no.
Europe. I'm supposed to call you from Europe to come and look up, and you'll be like, girl.
You are one of those artists that, to me, everybody knows you're part of the fabric of this. And being part of that, just being part of it, connected.
It's a tapestry.
Having contributed to it, it's
really
a tapestry.
It's a tapestry, and there's house music here, R&B over here, rock, soul.
And whatever. It's all connected.
It's all connected.
All connected. Exactly like all these people somehow.
Yeah.
The dots were connected. We were all connected.
But Phoebe yourself, Chris, and all of the team, Revival, listen, you guys have hit the nail of what this industry requires in order for it to move forwards.
It's overdue.
Yeah.
It's a tough old industry. We don't have to make it tougher. There are ways to make it better that don't even cost people money.
Yeah, and we're now kind of, we're in the middle part.
Yeah.
Because we've had musicians that have gone before us and have done all the gear and the this and the that and haven't quite survived it. You know, now our young people know that they don't have to die at 27. They can carry on and make a good career and make forward choices.
And they don't have to be in the Priory, you know.
No, absolutely.
Yeah. Meanwhile, we've probably only got a couple months left to live. Mary Pearce. Listen, I am so grateful to you for not just being part of this, but for being a big part of the tapestry of my own career, being a sister, being a friend. I love you to bits, as you know.
Oh, listen, the feeling is absolutely mutual.
And, you know, and I like the fact that you took credit for having introduced me to Elizabeth Troy, you know, because you were the one.
I introduced Chris Payton to Elizabeth Troy.
Yeah, I think she'd forgotten that.
And I think Elizabeth Troy thinks that she introduced me to Chris. What?
Yeah.
Please.
No.
Please.
I hope you heard that.
Child,
please.
girl,
please.
Girl.
As if.
Come on.
Oh. I love you, baby.
Love you too.
Mary Pearce in the house. Woo! Giving it that Fierce Pearce.